Before we get started, I'd like to take a quick moment to thank my patrons and channel members for their contributions. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. If you'd like to get a shout out, bonus content from me, and an occasional early upload, this is the way to do so. In the bonus content, I talk about various issues around the league, and I release an extra video per week. If you're interested in becoming a channel member or patron of mine, information will be below, and now, onto the video. Well, since we last spoke about all things trade related, the market has been heating up after the Flames acquired forward Tyler Toffoli. And as we all know, once the rumor mill really gets going, it only provides for more to talk about. Therefore, as the deadline approaches, you can all expect a steady stream of videos such as these, where we discuss some intriguing possibilities. In this video, we'll be going over a few players that could be moved very shortly and where they may end up. And with that, here are 3 NHL players who could be moved this deadline and which teams they may go to. Last video, we discussed the potential of Jim Rutherford acquiring one of his favorite players in Kasperi Kapanen. But instead of diving into who he may try and seek out in a return today, we'll be focusing on another player that he could choose to move on from. As among the slew of names that have been on the block is Minnesota natives Brock Boeser. Obviously, we've heard a lot about JT Miller, Connor Garland, and Tanner Pearson. But in an attempt to keep things fresh, I decided to touch on the guy with the best flow among them, in Boeser. With 27 points in his last 43 games played, it's easy to say that Boeser, just like most of his teammates, hasn't had his best season so far. Even still, at only 24 years of age, Boeser will likely be able to produce at a high rate if he's put in the right situation. Boeser has notched 20 or more goals already in his young career so far and would be an ideal piece for a contender looking to solidify that right side in the top 6 and receive a jolt in goal scoring. One team that could benefit from Boeser's services going into the postseason is the Washington Capitals. Elliotte Friedman recently noted that Washington could be on the hunt for some offensive help here shortly, as they're still playing without TJ Oshie and recently lost Anthony Mantha, as both have been sidelined due to injury. Obviously, however, Boeser would likely come at a steep price, considering he's a pending RFA whose cap hit is valued at $5.8 million. But one thing Boeser could definitely help the Capitals with is improve their struggling power play, which is currently the 4th worst league-wide. Every power play is different, but as of now, Boeser has 11 power play points on the season, with 7 of those being goals. Even though Connor Garland may be a cheaper acquisition, one has to at least speculate that GM Brian McClellan will be entertaining the idea if he hasn't already. At this point in time, most of us are up to speed on the Claude Giroux situation. Longtime Flyer who's been loyal to his team but is wanting to have an opportunity at capturing a Stanley Cup, considering his age and the status of his soon-to-expire contract. Considering Giroux does have a no-move clause on his contract, the captain will have the final say in where he ends up. But recently, the news broke to only confirm what most already speculated, that Giroux is going to try and make this easy on Chuck Fletcher and company by giving them at least a few options to choose from. According to Adrian Dater of Colorado Hockey Now, Giroux has let Fletcher know that he would consider being moved to a few Western Conference contenders in Colorado, St. Louis, and the Minnesota Wild. Giroux, who carries a $8.75 million cap hit, will be difficult for Colorado and St. Louis to both work in, considering their cap situations. According to Cap Friendly, the Blues have only $175,000 in available space, Colorado $1.69 million, and Minnesota with the most among them with $6.09 million. As I mentioned before, I enjoy keeping things as fresh as possible, and one team we haven't talked about that could be a dark horse for Giroux if he consents to it is the Florida Panthers. Elliotte Friedman recently named the Panthers as a team to watch in the Giroux sweepstakes going forward, while saying, quote, "No guarantees, but it makes a lot of sense for everyone involved," end quote. While the Panthers don't have as much available space as the Wild, they do have a very strong chance of doing some damage this postseason. With around $3.8 million to work with for Florida, if they were somehow able to get the captain with 50% salary retained per se and unload someone from their roster, such as Frank Vetrano for instance, then it's possible we could witness not only Joe Thornton getting a cup this spring, but also Claude Giroux. I know, we just talked about the flower, but if you all want to blame anyone for the redundancy, blame Frank Saravalli, because the NHL Insider broke the news recently that Colorado and Washington haven't been the only teams lately pursuing the netminder. And honestly, scenarios such as these don't come around too often. Goaltender helps team reach the Stanley Cup Finals, only to get crapped on and dealt to a bottom feeder team for basically a bag of pucks, only to have the team that tossed him out want him back. Yeah, that's not a fictional soap opera, it's actually reality. According to Saravalli, since the Knights starting netminder Robin Lehner has been out of commission due to injury and will likely require surgery, GM Kelly McCrimmon is considering bringing in some reinforcements from the outside. And one of those options on McCrimmon's mind is apparently Marc-Andre Fleury himself. Besides convincing Fleury to return to Sin City, McCrimmon would also have to figure out a way to take on Fleury's $7 million cap hit. LTIR is an option for Lehner, just as it has been recently for Mark Stone, but convincing Fleury will likely be harder than the financial gymnastics. Do I think Fleury will go back to Vegas? Definitely not. But, as I said, this type of scenario is something you don't see every day in the league. Even still, it will be interesting to see how this all plays out and where Fleury ends up in the end.
I saw him in the elevator with he and his wife, and I said, you're going to retire here. He said, what do you mean? I said, you're going to retire here. This is where you're going to be, and you're going to get to learn to love Vegas, and Vegas is going to love you.